John Wineland, thank you very much for coming on the show.
I'm very glad to be here, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. I found your stuff years ago,
Mm.
but I've already given a little bit of an intro for the listeners. But why don't you take 60 seconds to a couple minutes to tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
Mm. Okay, I always struggle with my elevator pitch, but I'll give you my best shot. I teach I teach spiritual intimacy, which basically means how to relate to each other from the highest place. I also teach a lot about sexual practice. Yogic sexuality is what my teacher would call it. Um, so basically, if you want to boil it down, it's how to be more intimate and how to have deeper sexual connection. And I work with couples, I teach couples, and I have both a coaching practice where I work with couples individually and then men and women. And then I run programs, group programs. I have a men's leadership program, a women's embodiment and relationship program, and then a co-ed program for people learning this work and wanting to teach this work and bring it out into the world. So I'm also writing a couple books, so I've been a pretty busy boy lately. But mainly, I like to teach. I like to teach. I like to coach, and that's where I spend most of my time working, kind of in the trenches with people on the how to deepen their relationships, how to deepen their connections, and how to really, have sex from the deepest place possible.
That sounds pretty fucking amazing.
I love my life, man. I have a great job.
Uh, okay, the what's yogic sexuality? I have no idea. Is that different positions? Isn't that the Kama Sutra?
Yeah, that's more. The Kama Sutra is actually a little different than different positions, but yogic sexuality is basically bringing. Let me see if I have the best way to put it. So there's a part of us that is the deepest part of us, right? And it gets covered by daily life, by habits, by the way we were raised. So there's a deepest part of our heart. There's a deepest part of our body. Most of us have sex from the um, surface of our body, right? We're focused on the exterior, and then the interior when we're in the interior. But so we could have sex from the surface of our bodies, meaning touching, the breasts, there's genitals, there's lips, right? But there's a way to actually include both a deeply emotional component and a deeper part of our body. So for a man, the deepest part of his body is the perineum, the solar plexus, the perineum, navel, solar plexus, heart, and throat. Basically, the center column that goes from the just below the tip of the spine all the way up to the throat. And for a woman, it starts in the cervix and it goes all the way up to the throat. So this area is actually the area that has got the most sensation, and obviously we can't touch it, but we can work with it, and we can expand it using breath and eye contact and very specific kind of ways of having sex, so that we're not just having sex from the physical plane, but we're having sex in a physical way, an emotional way, and then an energetic way.
Yeah,
And you put
that's
those together, and there's lots of other descriptions of yogic sexuality, but I think that gives you one that we can work with.
absolutely. I mean, after doing this for the last couple of years, you can teach the physical skills all you want, but if you don't have it in here, it doesn't matter what physical skills you have in the bedroom. It still is going to be quite lackluster unless you can actually be in the moment and like becoming there from the deepest part of yourself, like you just said.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And now you had mentioned the emotional component as well, and that's kind of what I really wanted to get into here for men. There's sort of two areas that I told you before that I'd like for us to get into is really helping women understand what men actually crave in relationship, and then also how men can show up better in relationship as well. And hopefully we can get through all this.
Mm.
But the emotional component of men, there's not really a lot of content out there that talks about what men are actually craving in like emotionally in relationship.
Mm.
And I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, on why we see a lot of articles that basically have women saying what they want in relationships, but very, very few articles that say, hey, as a guy, as a man, this is what I really need in a relationship as well.
Yeah. Well, my teacher, David Data, who maybe some of your people know, wrote extensively on this for years. He hasn't written anything for the last, I think, 7 or 8 years, but prior to that, he wrote a series of books that have massive amounts of information on this. So I always recommend people go to David, because he's really the gold standard. And I've learned from him and then developed my own practices, and I teach my own programs. I also still assist his programs. But he's really the guy that I look to around this. So everything I say is going to be filtered through my work with David. And those who know David will recognize some of the things I'm talking about. So I just like to get that out of the way, like honor my teacher and where my stuff came from.
For sure.
But I also have my own life and my own experience and my own practices. And so what I try to do is take in a lot of the experience around that. And what I've found, and I've led men's groups for a long time, so I feel like I have a really good, almost 20 years now I've led men's groups. So I feel like there's a real good, I have a real strong sense of what men want. And here's what I would say. The masculine in all of us, even in women, but the masculine in all of us feels constrained by freedom, lack of freedom. Right? We want to be free to make more money. We want to be we want financial freedom. We want sexual freedom. We want freedom. We're driven by freedom is the way that, I was taught. The masculine is driven by freedom. The feminine is driven by love. So the masculine wants freedom. Now, freedom, it gets experienced by the masculine in different ways. For example, you might be looking for the freedom of creating a great film, and then when the film is done and you've completed that project, you feel free, right? Or writing a book, or most guys love being either out in nature or left alone. All of those things are kind of ways of experiencing freedom. And so the feminine doesn't want freedom, they want connection. The feminine in all of us, not just women, men and women, my feminine, your feminine, the feminine in all of us wants connection. So the part of us that's driven for connection is the feminine, and the part of us that's driven for freedom is the masculine. So what the masculine craves from I mean, again, this is high level discussion. I'm not dealing with an individual person here, so I can't give you an exact answer. But
well, I mean, we have to generalize at some point, and then because they're going to have their own different lives and different experiences, so it is going to get a little bit more different and specific when we go down to one person. But obviously, we have to generalize at some point. But before
talking to women now, talking to women now, if you want to be valuable to a man, the way to be valuable is to really help him experience the kind of freedom that's most important to him. So, for example, if a man is like really working on his sexuality, like wants to express himself sexually and find, deeper sexual practice or really get into, his sexuality, then obviously if his feminine partner is game for playing, is up for practice, wants to go to workshops with him, wants to try new experiences, wants to, kind of go all in with him on this exploration of sexual freedom, that woman's going to be very valuable to him. Do you know what I mean?
So it's not, so freedom is not the same as a lack of commitment.
No. Freedom's always what we're seeking. Oftentimes there's a way of getting commitment, using commitment to be free. But I'll give you another example.
Sure.
So for example, let's say you're committed to financial freedom, right? I want to make 10 million. Like the most important thing in my life is we've all been there where we're like, I want to make a certain amount of money, or money's important to me in this way. A lot of men have been there. Well, then a really valuable partner is going to be a woman who supports that man's uh, mission to make $10 million, meaning she won't get mad if he has to work late. She'll honor him and understand what it is that he's trying to do in the world. Maybe she'll, order lunch for him when he has to, or dinner for him when he has to work late. Maybe when he gets home, she'll you take off his clothes and put him into bed and, and massage him and kind of soothe him after a really, really long day. So a really valuable woman to a man that's seeking financial freedom is somebody whose devotion, let's call it, their love, their individual expression of love, supports his mission of financial freedom. $10 million, I'm free, right? Now, so you've got the myth of most men is that I'll be free when. So I'll be free when I make my $10 million. I'll be free when my book becomes the #1 bestseller. I'll be free when I've had this kind of sex. I'll be free when my woman, is happy with me. I'll be free when. And so the myth that most men chase is this myth of freedom. So most men are committed to an idea of freedom, but when they get it, their $10 million, or they've had every kind of sex they could imagine, they don't feel free because it's a myth. However, on that path, a woman who supports whatever is most important, most valuable to a man will be incredibly valuable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and I like the fact that you clarified the difference between the men's desire for freedom, and that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a commitment phobe, because I think there's that joke, or that that joke that men are really afraid to commit, but it's not so much that they're afraid to commit; it's that they're afraid that if they commit, that they'll lose that freedom. So there could be that commitment to that freedom that they're pursuing, and finding a partner that helps support them in that pursuit.
Exactly. So for example, let's say you wanted to solve world hunger, or you wanted to, freedom for you was really, another way to describe freedom, at least the way I'm doing it, is a certain kind of success, a certain kind of hitting a goal, a certain kind of, that's why we set goals anyway, because we feel like when I get this thing, I'll have a sense of freedom. So let's say I want to build schools in Africa. I want to build 1,000 schools in Africa. Well, if I choose a partner, a feminine partner, that wants a home life in Brentwood, it's not going to work too well. But if I choose a feminine partner who really feels the depth of my desire for this mission, and who supports it, and who really values it and supports it, not just by blessing my mission, but in her heart, in her body. She's really devoted to my mission. That's incredibly valuable for a masculine partner. Now, she might have her own mission. Like my partner's runs 3 yoga centers, has a huge following, is a best-selling author, just did a German book tour. But she's going to be here this weekend when I'm teaching 44 women on sexual intimacy to support me in my giving my gift. And so that to me is incredibly valuable, that she's here and she's going to be by my side, brainstorming with me, working with the women, assisting me basically on this weekend that's so important for me. And if I deliver this weekend well, I'll have a sense of accomplishment, i.e. a sense of freedom, a sense of feeling like I've given my gift fully. And there's kind of an right?
Yeah, and that's actually going to help you when you guys do have sex. You're going to be coming from that place from deep within, because you've been living your life from that place. You were able to give your gift, and you also have that appreciation for the partner that supported you in giving that gift. So you're truly going to be coming from the deepest part of who you are. Yeah,
there's a deep appreciation. She's not actively antagonistic towards my mission. She's actively supportive, and so that makes her incredibly valuable for me. And depending on what's most important. Now, of course, there's other pieces of this. So the masculine nervous system experiences freedom also as like a rush of energy. So feminine sexual energy and just all kinds of feminine energy occurs to us as really pleasurable, right? Another thing that men crave is a range of feminine energies. I think I spoke about this in the talk that I did. And so a woman so for example, let's say a woman is a lawyer or a CPA and she's clamped down all day because she's working, right? And she gets off of work, there's not a lot of energy. So her work and her, work, if she wants to be valuable. Now I'm not saying any women have to want this. They don't need us very much anymore, really. But if they want to be valuable, just like men have to do certain things if they want to be valuable, if she wants to be valuable, she has to learn to actually run energy through her body so that he experiences her as a gift of being alive.
Yeah, I mean, there's
versus
also
a feeling of burden.
Yeah, I guess there's also that would be the point that'd be the part on the guys. That would be a man's responsibility as well to help her get into her body and get out of that place of being in her head or being in that one place, right?
Yeah, both. But most men are not skillful in doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
Most men are not skillful. Yeah. So when you're talking about this idea of valuable, about what men crave, I mean, I'm trying to use the terms of what's valuable to a masculine man.
Yes. Yeah.
And what's valuable to a masculine man is a woman who is devotional, like, supportive, loving, will give her heart, is another way of putting it, to what he wants to create in the world. Even if she has her own very deep and powerful mission, she still has a really deep, love of his and support of his. So she's not just supporting him with words, like, she's buying food that would support him. Like, how should he eat? He's got to work really hard. How should he eat? He needs a certain kind of sex because he's been working super hard all week. What kind of sex could I give him that's a gift for him? Not because I'm obligated to, but because I love him. That kind of woman is incredibly valuable and kind and rare.
Yeah, and I think that also speaks to a maturity on both people's parts.
Right.
To truly want to do that from a place of I want to give this to my partner, and like you said, not from a place of obligation. Oh, I need to do this. How can I best do this for my partner? And I don't know,
or he's demanding it, which is horrible, right?
Yeah.
It's more a sense of, wow, this guy's fighting the fight. He's making his mark in the world in some way that really is important to him. How can I use the gift of my heart, my body, my soul, to make him happy to re-energize him, to make him happy to be alive, to flirt with him in the exact way that makes him feel grateful to be a man on the planet, to touch him in a way that does the same. How can I honor this guy's mission and this guy's place in the world? And each guy's at a different phase of his life. Like we talked about the guy whose goal is to make 10 million and have financial freedom, or the guy whose goal is to have sexual freedom, or the guy whose goal is to build, schools in Africa. These are all guys that I know, by the way, so I'm just using real life examples. And so attuning yourself to his mission. Now, obviously, if his mission is so far askew, or what he would consider freedom is so far askew from what's important to you as a woman, I'm speaking to the women here, obviously, then that's not a good fit, no matter how much sexual chemistry you have or whatever it is, because ultimately he won't feel your devotion to what he's doing, and you will feel unseen and unmet, which happens a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can speak from personal experience. When I felt stifled in relationship, where I don't feel very free, I don't really give in all that much into relationship either. It's whenever I feel really supported, I just want to give that much more to the person that I'm with. It's
of course.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be asked. I just do, because I just feel like I've got so much more to give.
Yeah, of course. And I was working with a guy a few months ago. He loved to go out in nature. Like, he would go on fishing trips with his friends, and he would go up into the mountains and bow hunt, and like he was a man's man. And he loved her, but every time he left, she would just make it miserable on him. And it was like where she was texting him while he was, up in the mountains. And then if he didn't return the text, it was a big issue. And you know what I mean? And so his nourishment, his freedom, my freedom, his freedom was obviously being out in nature and, doing the things he loved to do. It wasn't honored. And so, you can guess what happened. He was eventually like, all right, fuck this. I'm going to, this is not, I'm trying to like just enjoy the things that nourish me, and you're giving me a hard time. And so he left, and the relationship broke off. So it works both ways. So if you want to, because you asked me about what men are craving to be known through their mission, whatever's important to them, even if it's play, right? To be known and honored for their mission and through their mission from the women that they love.
There was a line that you said during this video, and I thought it was profound. I thought it was amazing. You said, "We want to see how painful it is for you when we don't show up for you." Can you talk to that a bit?
Yeah. Well, the other thing that a man craves is to feel a woman's, and I'm talking kind of heteronormatively here, right? Like I'm talking man is masculine, woman is feminine, but we all know that it moves back and forth, or there's some men that have feminine essences and there's some women that have masculine, but most men have a masculine essence. Most women have a feminine essence, like 90% or so. But I just want to say that so I'm being cool to the people who might not be hetero. So what a man craves is the deepest experience of the feminine heart. And what he gets most of the time is sort of a watered down or superficial version of that. So he doesn't want to just feel her love. He wants to feel her weeping in devotion. He doesn't want to just feel her, kind of brattiness or bitchiness. He wants to feel the ache of her heart, right? If he's doing something that's hurting her, it's like, I want to feel the ache I want to feel it all. Most men don't even know they want this until they see it and they experience it on a really pure level. And when they do, what happens is their whole nervous system kind of up levels. I see it all the time in workshops. I see it in couples. I just saw it a couple that left about an hour ago. And when she shows the depth of her aching or yearning or feeling of not being seen or not being met, and it's not like a complaint, but it's like a revealing, he actually gets very present and wants to move towards her and be there. He gets more present. The more she reveals her heart, the more present he gets. And so yeah, we don't want the watered down version of your heart. We want the whole enchilada, but we don't want closed heartedness. Like, we don't want you to complain about us while your heart is closed. Right?
Because then if you try to fix it or try to make changes, it's not going to go anywhere because there isn't any actual vulnerability that's there. It's like, I can't actually fix it because you don't necessarily even want it.
You aren't letting me, yeah. And not only that, it just feels crappy. Like I'm sure you've experienced a woman complaining about how you're showing up in the relationship, but it's not coming from her heart, it's coming from her head. And it gets experienced like an attack on the nervous system. But when that same complaint, that same feeling comes from her heart, and it's seen as a revealing of a deep, pain or yearning to be met or to be seen, it's very touching and it's very inspiring for most men that I know.
Yeah, especially the fact that, as men, we want to protect, we want to be a hero, we want to fix. We want to be seen as the man, and if someone is hurting, we want to make that stop. So at least I can say that from like personally from me.
Most men I know are like that, Ryan.
Yeah.
Most guys want to be a hero to her heart, whatever that means to them, right? Like, I want to be a hero for her heart, and I want to be trusted. I want to be counted on. I want her to be able to reveal all of her, not just the shiny, happy parts, but the parts that are rageful and aching and hurting. I want to be a space for all of that for her. Most guys feel that way, I think.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. And I think there's just as an aside as well, if we see someone who's raging, like that word, it's because there's a hurt that's in there that we can pay attention to.
Yeah.
The
But there's a different experience. I just want to, tie this up. There's a totally different experience in my body. I imagine you'd agree. When a woman's raging, but her heart totally disconnected from her heart, versus raging and showing you tears streaming down her face. You hurt me so much. I love you. I can't believe you're not this kind of guy. Like tears streaming down her face. That's quite touching and inspiring. But you're a fucking asshole. How you do this all the time. You're selfish. I mean, and there's total closure of your heart. It's the same feelings in a woman's body, but it's one's open-hearted, the other's closed-hearted, and it one causes a man to run for the hills or to fight back. One causes a man to stand in his power.
That is, God, that's freaking amazing. So good. Yeah.
And I see it all the time, man. Women don't believe me when I tell them this. I'm like, look, do it this way and see what happens to him. Now do it this way and see how much more he wants to be with you. And it's really profound when they see it.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that you zeroed in on that, the need to come from the heart as well, because I think that when we were mentioning freedom before, I had started thinking about younger guys saying, I don't have to text her all the time. And then him going on to say, oh, you're taking away my freedom. But that's not the case. That's not the case.
Well, it is in some sense, because we don't want to have to be, but again, it's natural. Like the masculine's going to want to not, the masculine in her too. Like lots of women have a very strong masculine that doesn't want to be bothered. So the masculine, what my teacher would call a first stage masculine, means the kind of the selfish masculine, right? So there's a selfish masculine. That's all of us. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that was where I was going, and that's that's much better than the way that I was going to say it. That's
dude. The selfish masculine just does not want to be bothered. Like we don't want to be constrained by anything, and we just want to win. Like just get me to the win. That's the way that I see it. Like, get me to the win of sex, get me to the win of money, get me to the win of whatever my way is. And so we don't want to be constrained. And oftentimes the way that I think people, including myself, men relate to the feminine, it's from this place of trying to she's in the way of my win, unless my win is sex with her. And there's sort of a selfish masculine that's prevalent in, I'd say, 90% of the guys. And now there's a upgraded version, a healthy masculine, and that healthy masculine is into we, right? And you see a lot of that in semi-healthy relationships where there's a we, and they communicate well, they go on vacations together, there's date night, there's an I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of idea. This is the way that my teacher talks about it. But there's a sacred masculine, like a high level masculine, and that high level masculine is more about giving freedom rather than getting freedom.
It's kind of funny that you say that. I mean, it's because we essentially get what we give.
That's the rub, man. Yeah.
Which is also quite counterintuitive as well for a lot of people. How am I supposed to get love? I don't feel very loved. How I want to get love so that way I can feel loved.
Yeah.
Well, if you give love, then you'll most likely be able to find that love, which is very a challenging shift. At least it was for me when I was much younger.
Most people too. Like, let's use the example of the guy who was complaining about the text. Like, oh, she's texting me too much. She's taking away my freedom, right? So that would be like a me level, the self-centered level response, which is she wants connection because that's what the feminine wants, connection. His response is no, self, right? If he was kind of a nice guy or was just kind of trying to keep keep peace in the relationship, he'd be like, listen, my love, I'm busy for now. I'll see you tonight. We'll have dinner. I'll see you then. Love you. Bye. Right? Which is nice. It's good, but it's not super sexy. It's not super artful, is the way I think you could put it. But there's kind of a high level approach to this, which is she wants connection. How can I'm going high level. I said I wouldn't, but I'm going to go, how can I free her in that moment by giving freedom? Like her heart is kind of aching because she wants a connection, right? I could deny the connection. I could ameliorate or kind of like compromise to give her a kind of a flaccid connection. Like, I'll see you tonight at dinner, baby, bye. Or I could free her heart. So what's the text that he would send back that would give her the freedom?
Personally,
Something
I was
like,
even just thinking a call, even just calling.
Or a call. Oh, my baby misses me. Oh, you miss me. But, and see you smiling. And then she smiles and giggles and says, yeah, I miss you. And like, I love it when you miss me. Or he sends a certain, luckily we have these kind of instant letters called texts, and you can make art with them. So he could send her a text and saying, oh, I love it when you miss me like this, emoji, smiley face, and then she smiles, which is freedom. Now he's actually given her freedom. She smiles and says, yeah, I do. I just wanted your attention. Love you. And that's it. And of course
that's just an atom bomb right there, man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're giving her freedom. You get what I'm saying, yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
100%.
yeah, you're freeing her heart in that moment. Even if she comes home and if you come home and she's in a bad mood because she's pissed about something, you didn't return her text. Let's say you didn't, and she's pissed and she's closed and and she's like kind of says something bitchy to you, but you like walk up to her and you kind of grab her and kiss her neck and say, oh baby, I missed you so much. I love you. Don't be mad at the man that loves you so much. And you just kind of like lift her off her feet and kiss her neck. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, she'll giggle and she'll be happy and her heart will open because she feels loved. You've given freedom. And that's, I think, the thing that most men miss.
Yeah, there's one situation that I'm relating this here because there's one specific, not that I've only done this once, but there's one time that there was a huge shift in my partner's energy. She was really nervous about her job and she was stressing out about her boss, and she had gotten home. She was only home for about a half hour by the time I got there, and she was super stressed and kind of, I guess, not complaining, but she was, I guess, kind of stuck in this loop. And all I did was I said, it's okay, and I grabbed her and I just hugged her and I just held her, and then we hugged for about 5 minutes, and I actually felt her body relax, and like it was something. Yeah, I felt her body relax, and I even felt her breathing completely change as well over those 5 minutes. And that's all it took, was just a hug, 5 minutes, no talking, just it's all good. And it was an amazing night for.
Yeah, you freed her heart in that moment.
Yeah, sometimes
her heart was closed, and your breath and your attention and your body. Right, this is what makes it yoga. Right, like you're using your body, you're using your breath, you're using your awareness to actually create a moment of deep connection. You could have talked about it for an hour, right? And maybe it would have had worked, maybe it wouldn't have. But in that moment, you went straight to, how can I get her to relax and be free? Because the feminine in all of us is love. So for women, you asked about how men can lead women better. It's by getting them back to that truth. Like, you led her well in that moment by helping her remember that she is love. And so she relaxed, her breath changed, her body softened, and there was probably like more love flowing through her body. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a big smile on her face.
That's good leadership. That's great leadership in my book. Like, you could have come home and like gone, oh, she's in a shitty mood. Yeah. You could have come home and said, she's in a shitty mood. I don't want to deal with her mood. That's a me. You could have come home and talked about it. Hey, baby, tell me what's going on. Like, I'll be here. I'll listen to you. And, that's a we. right? But you came home and you like met her with you literally brought your love and your consciousness to help her remember that she's loved. And to me, that's what I consider very powerful leadership, from a man to a woman.
No, that's amazing. Like going into and I wasn't saying about what I did was amazing. I wasn't saying that to myself. I was more saying like what it is you're saying. Well,
yeah, no, man,
you.
give yourself a thing. Yeah,
Boom.
you demonstrated, because you could have, and most guys would go one of the other two routes, but you didn't.
Yeah. I'm coming up with another story there. Well, sorry, not another story, but another situation. But I won't actually get into that. I was having another example where I didn't do that, and I was doing the ameliorating thing. But I won't get into that, because I wanted to actually get into the leadership aspect of relationships as well. I mean, I think we hear a lot about asking women to, especially on this show, I've had a lot of people come on to talk about masculine, feminine, and the need for women to surrender. I also had one episode just on surrender. And I think that some people, and I've definitely noticed this come up for me, where I think to myself, at least when I've encountered the thought that leadership equals power, and then if one person has the power in the relationship or is the leader of the relationship, then the other person has no power. So the negative connotation of surrender is giving up your power to another person. So I've noticed some men refuse to lead because they don't want to take away a woman's power. Am I
yeah.
Have you encountered that?
I don't look at it that way. The way I look at it is that we're most powerful when we're fully expressed and when we're in our essence, right? So a woman who's surrendered just means that she's removing the blocks to love. That's it, right? So if she's surrendered, it means that she trusts him enough to reveal all of the blocks to showing the depth of her heart. And I don't think which is fucking powerful. A woman's heart fully expressed is like one of the most powerful things on the planet. Presidents will get impeached for it. People will, like, men will, throw away millions. Like, it's an incredibly powerful experience. A woman who can reveal her heart or can surrender to a man she trusts. So good leadership is to be the most trustable and integral man you can be, so that she can surrender to you, so that she can surrender. It's not that she should surrender her life. But most women, most feminine women want to surrender a part of their hearts that they want to surrender a part of their hearts that needs to be seen. And it's the part of their hearts that is the most tender, the most wild, the most vulnerable. Now, they can't actually, like, they can lead themselves fine throughout most life. They can make enough money, they can have their own children, most women are actually more capable than men, especially under 30, for earning. Women under 30 are making, at least in the States, making more than men under 30.
Yeah,
right?
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, extrapolate this out 10, 20 years, women under 50 are going to be making more than men in their prime.
Yep.
And but there's a part in her heart that she can't lead herself to. She can't lead herself. She needs a partner. Now, it could be a woman too, woman or a man, but if she's a feminine woman, she needs a masculine partner to lead her there and be the witness to this part of her that is, for lack of a better term, kind of the sacred part of her, the essential part of her, love.
So is that love for her the connection? So it's the feminine craves connection? So is it leading her to the place of block down?
Yeah, that's the deepest connection, right? So if a woman is experiencing like, I trust this man fully, I'm showing him my heart, I'm weeping, I'm like letting him see all of me, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and he is meeting her with, God damn, that's beautiful. That's all of it. That's beautiful. I love you. You're so beautiful. That to a feminine nervous system occurs as the most sublime connection possible. I'm showing you all of me. And to a man, that's delicious. I mean, most men I know are like, I want to see all of you. I want to feel all of you, especially sexually, right? You just don't want the problem with most men is we want that sexually, but we don't want it in all the other areas. And the problem is you can't separate the two. You can't say, hey, I want you to be sweet and nice only what's in the parlor, but then I want you to be a dark, slutty
lady in the
whore
streets
in the
and a freak in the
yeah,
sheets.
yeah, exactly, yeah, and that's what men want. I just don't think women have actually had it explained in a way that they're like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And you said one word that is huge. It's the word trust. When a woman trusts the man to enough that she can open up and he will hold that space well enough for her to be fully expressed. Yeah. Then, so what is that place of trust for men? What is it? Why is it that is so valuable to us? Because I know that when I'm trusted, it makes me want to rise up.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. My teacher said once in a workshop, he did this exercise where the women said to the men, I trust you, I'll follow you anywhere. And the men were weeping, like, just like, oh my God, like I've been waiting my whole life for a woman to really say that. And then the men would say to the woman, I love you, you're so beautiful. And they did this kind of loop together. And man, it was sublime. It was really like seeing the impact on the men. I think the reason why is because there's just a dynamic where we want to be heroes, right? We want to be hero to the woman we love. We want to be able to lead her to a place that is the deepest, richest, most true essence of herself. And if we can do that, it feels kind of victorious for us. Like, wow, like I helped get her there. And it's beautiful. And she trusts me and I trust her. And it's like, it's the deepest kind of love, I think. So I think that's why men crave that, because we know that if we're trusted, she's going to reveal all of herself to us. So I think intuitively we get that. At least to me and most of the guys that I know, that means a lot. Like, how could I be with a woman who doesn't trust me fully? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So would you say that actually is a place of I guess, of leadership? So when a man is, let's say, generally speaking, I think it's not uncommon for a lot of guys who are, the quote unquote the nice guys, who are more masculine. They want to take that leadership, but they're the nice guys, and they end up being led by their partners. Would you say that they're being led because their partners don't necessarily trust them, or would you say that it's because that their partner has no other choice, so they have to take the lead in the relationship? I see a lot of resentment being built up in those kinds of relationships, but
totally, yeah, yeah, and yeah, for
both.
Sure. So it's both, yeah. I mean, it's a loop. You know what I mean? It's like most relationships have an ecosystem, right? And there's a dynamic that develops where she doesn't trust him to lead, and so she rises up because she's a capable person in the world, but so she rises up in the relationship. But then she starts to hate him because he's not lead. I mean, I see this all the time. Then she starts to secretly resent him because he's not leading. And then it shows up in all kinds of kind of condescending and castrating ways. And then he feels less inclined to lead because he can feel her lack of trust. And then she hates him even more. And then here's the dynamic, right? And it's a horrible dynamic. It's out there a lot. And most of the reason is because, most of the times where I see this is when a man does not trust his own power, or he hasn't trained his nervous system to really take the lead in a way that's confident and integral and filled with love. Like most women I know would follow a man whose breath is deep, whose body is strong, whose mind is focused, whose heart is open anywhere, if they really felt like he was doing it from a place of love and service. Women are dying for that kind of masculinity. And most women would do it, but most men have not. Nobody taught us how to do this. Nobody taught me when I was young. I mean, you're military, so there's a certain part of training you got, but most of us got no training about what it means to be present, really, or what it means to be embody integrity or embody consciousness, or these things that really matter to a feminine nervous system.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if we were raised in a household where masculinity was perceived as dark or aggressive or dangerous
or flaky. Yeah, or flaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my dad split when I was 18 months, so I was surrounded by women, my aunt, my grandmother, my great aunt, my mom, who just talked shit about my dad all the time. So, fuck, I was like, I hit 10 years old. I was like, oh, men must be assholes. But I of course, it's no secret now that I've been leading men's groups for 20 years and like teaching masculinity because, it's a way for me to deal with this, my own wound. But I do think that most guys, if given the chance, would learn how to become more trustable. And the reason why I'll circle back to your first question. The reason why that's yoga is because it's not just something you can think. There's literally a breath to it. There's a way to stand. There's a posture to it. There's an intentionality to it. There's a embodied practice to it. And if you put a woman in front of a man who's standing that way, she will trust him more. Yeah. So most guys don't ever know. No one's ever taught us how to actually embody presence or feel presence or groundedness, for example. Like, hey, be grounded. Well, what the fuck does that mean? Like, there's actually a very specific way to root yourself into the ground and then breathe from that place, and you actually feel more grounded to people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've incorporated a presence exercise before in some of the workshops that I've done, and there's a notable change. There's a notable shift. I incorporated eye contact exercises beforehand and then afterwards, and there's definitely a notable difference both in how the guys feel, how they carry themselves, and then how they relate to the other guys that happen to be there.
Sure,
it's it is very, very powerful, and this is this leadership is because I guess a lot of people, and I definitely did this, thinking about, okay, well, I have to take the lead in the relationship, so I have to know exactly. I mean, obviously, it's part of this, being able to take the lead in the relationship, so that way she doesn't get into her, into her head, and she can stay in her body. But I think there's also that idea of like, I need to have control over the relationship, so that way that's leadership, and I'm trying to figure out how to structure this question.
Are you asking about the difference between true leadership and control?
No, it was more about leading. It's helping a woman. It's helping lead a woman to her heart, not necessarily having control over the relationship under the guise of leadership. The leadership is obviously leading the relationship, but also leading her to her heart.
Yeah,
that's basically it, right? Getting her out of her head and into her body. Is that
well? Yeah. I mean, that's one piece of it. I think that can happen moment to moment, right? Like kind of like the examples we gave. The example you gave, for example, that was a moment where you led her back into her heart, and she felt grateful and probably felt more relaxed in her body, her nervous system, all of that. So that was a gift. You gave her freedom in a certain way. But in a long-term relationship, you might see a pattern, for example, overwork. Like she's working too much and she's not taking care of herself. She hasn't been to a yoga class or a dance class or a Pilates class or swimming in the ocean or whatever lights her up for a week. So good leadership is like, all right, baby, come on. You don't just say go swimming. You like pick her up from work and with her bathing suit and say, all right, we're going to take a jump in the ocean. Right. And then you take her down to the ocean, you guys jump in the ocean together. She feels better. She feels clean. And then that's good leadership as well. Or for me, sometimes I've actually sent women that I'm with to women's workshops because I'm like, I'll pay for it. You're going this. You're going to love this. If you hate it, then you can, beat me up when you get back. And I've actually like paid for them to go work with some of the women teachers that I love. And then they come back and they're like, oh my God, that was so amazing, because all the women do is remember that they're loved together, and it's fucking awesome. So, so there's all kinds of ways to lead, but the way that I like to describe it is that, the essential masculine practice is to, rest is truth, whatever truth is. Truth might be consciousness, depending on your, whatever your worldview is. For me, whatever the deepest truth is, to rest is consciousness, is the way I do it. But I'm a Buddhist, so I look at it that way. To rest is the essential part of myself, and then feel from that place what needs to happen next. What needs to happen next to create the most love, freedom, depth, joy. And if I'm choosing what needs to happen next, moment after moment after moment, from a place of rested depth, then my leadership is much more trustable, I've found, and much more effective and much more beautiful.
Yeah, and
if I'm thinking about it, or I have motives around it, like I don't want her to leave, or I want her to be impressed with me, or that's where control comes from. When we have self-centered motives that we're camouflaging as leadership, that's not the same thing as true leadership.
That is a place of huge growth. To let go of the fears that drive the control.
Totally.
And going into a place of genuinely leading from a place of giving that freedom. Yeah.
What needs to happen next is the way that I always like try to teach guys to think about it. So rest, take 3 deep breaths, feel your core, and then think, what needs to happen next? Do I need to go apologize to her? Do I need to send her a text saying I love her and she's so fucking beautiful? I'm so grateful for you. Do you need to go on a vacation together? Do you need to break up? Do you need to, have a sex night? Do you need to have a movie night? Like literally, it's endless. The possibilities are endless. But if you're coming from that place of, take a few breaths, connect to your center, connect to your core, connect to the part of you that never changes, I think is a good way to put it. That's the way my teacher talks about it. And then from there, decide what needs to happen next. And most women will trust that because they can feel it's coming from here, not here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why meditation can be so powerful. It gets you present.
Totally. And if you bring it into your relationship, that's how you would practice it.
Yeah. The other thing about presence is I've found that when I'm in my head, I don't necessarily have any intuition, but when I'm in my body and I'm actually in the moment, I find that my intuition is extremely strong, and I can usually pick up what's going on with my partner before she even really knows, or she knows that something's there, but she doesn't really know why.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been able to lead her out of it, or find out what's actually going on in that moment.
That's your value to her. I remember we were talking about her value to you. Your value to her is just what you talked about. Like, I can feel from my intuition, from my gut, what's blocking her from love. And I can feel it, and I can come up with some way to lead her out of that. That's your value as a masculine partner for her.
Whoa. You just blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. It was good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because our value is not what it used to be. Remember, 100 years ago, our value was keep me safe, take care of the kids, make money. That's not the value anymore. The value now, and this is going to become more and more prevalent in the next 50 years or so, the value more is, get me back to who I really am, which is love. I'm not this person, I'm not necessarily a driven, some women are, and that's great, but at their core, if they're feminine, their core is love. So your value to get her back to that place of relaxation in her nervous system, openness in her heart, love in her body, that's your value.
Amazing. I feel like I could talk to you about this for hours, days.
Yeah, man, come
months.
to a workshop. We get deep into this stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, not even just me. How can other men, how can other women, how can other couples find you and come to your workshops?
Yeah, John Wineland, wine like you drink, land like you live on, .com, and just I've got a full schedule. I've got a full boat. I've got one in Berkeley next month, but it's sold out. I've got one at a women's one at the end of April, but it's also sold out. So the next one is in Boulder in August, co-ed workshop. And that's my favorite way to introduce people to this work. Or they can email me, or I have videos, like, I have a YouTube channel, and I have blogs and stuff. I write for Mind Body Green, so that'll show up sometimes. Yeah, I'm out there.
You're out there? All right.
Yeah, I'm out there. They can find me if they need me. But yeah, come to a workshop, I think, is a good way for anybody who wants to, if you wanted to be, let's say, a great marksman, right? You would probably you'd go to a marksmanship workshop, right? Or you'd go immerse yourself in whatever it is, playing piano, doing yoga, being a marksman. It's the same kind of thing. If you want to be really great in the art of the things that you and I are talking about right now, leading, you come to a workshop.
Yeah, absolutely. The learning never stops. The learning never stops.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything that we've talked about that maybe there's some loose ends that you think need to be tied up? Is there anything that you want to say before we finish?
No, it was great, man. I'm glad we got into a nice conversation about this stuff. And I think this is the thing that I will say, to tie it up in a bow, is that I believe that we all want this. Like, we all want to, I think the feminine wants to surrender to somebody they trust. I think the masculine wants to be trustable and lead from that place. It's just that we haven't really been taught how. And so part of what it is that we're trying to do together in this sphere, you in your way, me in my way, those of us who are teaching intimacy, is to try to bring the skills for people who, most of us were not taught by our parents how to do this stuff. So, but doesn't mean we don't want to. I think everybody wants to.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. This has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah. Nice to be here, man.